Hello buddy, Caesar here. I was inspired by a friend of the channel, Inferno Fox Gaming's quest to complete his childhood Super Nintendo collection. Now for me, I've been buying Super Nintendo games for quite a while, and I have a pretty decent sized collection. However, it's those childhood games that really stand out to me. So in today's video, I want to reminisce about those games and talk a little bit about them, some of my memories with them, as well as adding the missing final piece to this childhood collection of mine. If you love the Super Nintendo as much as I do, hit the like button, hype the video up, and let me know in the comment section down below what's your favorite Super Nintendo childhood game and your memories along with it. With that out of the way, welcome to the CesArcade.
Get ready.
So I already talked about my childhood memories with my very first console, and that was the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is kind of like the sequel to that video because one day the Nintendo Entertainment System that we had just stopped working. Now, we tried blowing into the cartridges, which now in hindsight we know that was not a great idea, but hey, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So at some point, you know, we didn't have the internet back then, we didn't know how to fix these things, and you know, my father was pretty good with tech, but this was something that we just like chalked it up to, it just doesn't want to work anymore. And I believe the light was blinking red. You know, now I know exactly what the problem was. That being said, one day I was just taking a nap and I woke up and I see my sister and father playing in the living room the Super Nintendo, and I was like, am I dreaming right now? I had no idea what this was. I didn't know that they made a new console. I mean, I was barely sentient at the time. I think I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, I think I was around that age, maybe 7. It's hard to remember exactly the exact year that he bought it, but oh man, I just remember that day, and they were just playing it on the big TV at the time, and I was like, this looks so cool. So I sat down next to them, and at some point my father passed me the controller, and the rest is history. But we're going to talk a little bit about that history and these games in particular. Now, there is one game missing because what happened was he bought the system and it came with like 5 games. Those original 5 games had a huge impact on me, except one of them. There was a Wayne Gretzky game, NHL game. I probably played it twice and I did not like it, so that's why it's not even a part of this collection. I just act like it doesn't even exist. One of the first games I remember playing was the original Mortal Kombat. This was like the perfect entry point for me because I was still very young, so I didn't know Mortal Kombat was supposed to be really violent. I played the censored version on the Super Nintendo and we had an absolute blast with it. Me and my sister, I still remember cheesing her in this game by sweeping her over and over again. It was a very cheap tactic and I wasn't very good at the game. I didn't know how to pull off any of the special moves, and that being said, I still had a great time with Mortal Kombat. It was my introduction to fighting games, and it was like love at first sight with this game. Never looked back.
Raiden wins.
Now, saying I was never a big fan of sports would be a big lie, because when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, living in New York City, we were huge fans of the New York Yankees because that team was absolutely phenomenal. So of course my father picked up a baseball game, and that baseball game is Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball. Me and my father would play this over and over again together. I would use auto fielding, so I kind of cheated, and I'm sure he let me win for most of those matches. But we had such a great time. I have so many fond memories of him and I playing this game. In fact, not too long ago, I sat him in front of this game, hooked up the Super Nintendo, and I was like, I want you to play this for old time's sake. It had to be over 2 decades since we last played this game together. I know he was experiencing a nostalgia trip. Just watching him play it, it made me almost want to cry because it was just so emotional, just that feeling. I sat down next to him, I grabbed the controller, and we started playing. We played 2 games, and of course, he won. because we were both a little rusty, but we were going back and forth in them, and it was such a great time. I wish it's something I could do more with my family. Dad, if you're watching this, I'm sorry I had to show a little footage of you because I know you don't like being on camera, but this video means a lot to me, so I just wanted to include you in there as well. Super Mario All-Stars. So I got to experience Super Mario Brothers, the Lost Levels, Super Mario Brothers 3 in 16 bits, and of course I didn't really know the difference at the time. I just remembered, hey, this is the one we played on the original Nintendo before it died on us. The game's graphics just really popped, and the world of the Mushroom Kingdom was so much more beautiful than it was originally on the NES. I played Super Mario Bros. 3 a hell of a lot through this version. Also, I got to experience Super Mario Bros. 2 for the very first time. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's not a real Super Mario Bros. Game. I don't care. Still to this day, Super Mario Bros. 2 is one of my favorites in the series. Especially just the music alone brings me back so many memories. And then the game that really turned things around for me was this one, Super Mario World. Most people who played a Super Nintendo or owned one growing up, of course, had to have Super Mario World. It was like having the Sega Genesis and Sonic the Hedgehog. You couldn't have one without the other. Now, Super Mario World was the turning point for me as a kid, where I realized that video games are truly, special. And I still remember playing countless hours, getting through the levels with Yoshi, and I absolutely adore this game so much. Now, aside from those initial 4 games, 5 if you include the Wayne Gretzky game that I don't include because I never played it that much, there was other games that we added to our Super Nintendo library as we grew up. So those games include, of course, growing up in the 90s, I say it again, I know I'm on repeat here, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I loved the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. To this day, still, the Power Rangers will always be a part of my childhood that I cherish. And especially the Mighty Morphin ones. You know, I have this very vague memory, but it's pretty vivid because of how stupid I was at the time. And, oh man. So, me and my sister wanted this game, right? So me and my father were waiting to pick up my sister from piano lessons. I was like, how am I gonna ask my father to get us this game? I told him, hey dad, sis, you know, she said she's not gonna love you anymore if you don't get us this game. And my father just kind of rolled his eyes, looked at me and was like, listen, do you want the game or not? And he stop bullshitting me, kid. It was funny because I was just I felt so stupid and dumb and I felt bad. And he was just like, yeah, look, if you just want the game, just say so and I'll get it for you. So I think we ended up going to the Wiz because nobody beats the Wiz, which was not too far from where the piano lessons were, and we ended up getting it that day. Or maybe it was a little bit down the line, but yeah, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, 2D side-scroller beat 'em up. The music, the boss fights, and even the last 2 levels where you're playing as the Megazord, those really just stood out to us, and it just, once again, a fantastic game. Great memories with it. We would at some point also rent the sequel, which was based off the movie and had the White Ranger and everything, but for some reason we never really liked that one too much. I guess it was a bit more difficult than this one, even though it supported 2 players. You would think it'd be a match made in heaven, but we never did own that one. So maybe one day I'll hunt that one down, even though it's a bit pricier now in the aftermarket. I don't know why, it just is. This is where I remember actually my first rage quit. This game was ridiculously hard, especially for a kid's game. I don't know why, it was just so super difficult. It is Toy Story. God darn game. Kicked my ass. I just could not get through some of the levels in it. But you know, when you're a kid, you don't got that many games like we do now as collectors. But you power through certain games just to see them to the end, especially since it feels like you have unlimited time, which was wild to me because I was only allowed to play video games on the weekends. So one weekend I got really motivated and I ended up finishing this game. It was wild. I called my sister over. I was like, Amanda, look, I beat Toy Story on the Super Nintendo. That felt like one of the biggest accomplishments to me as a child, being able to actually finish a game, and brutally difficult one at the same time. And it's a memory that I still hold very dear to my heart. I still remember that day, man. Next up, we have another fighting game, and being that we love the Mortal Kombat so much, we ended up renting this one, and it was Killer Instinct. That's right, Killer Instinct. Something about this game just stood out to us. It reminded us a lot of Mortal Kombat, especially since it was a little darker, a lot more violent. You could play as a freaking raptor in this game with Riptor. Always loved it. My older sister would always get really good with Cinder. You know, granted, I know Cinder was pretty easy to combo spam, but I would see her pull off these combos and knock the characters off the levels, and we were just like, whoa, we didn't know you could do that? That's crazy. So yeah, this was probably the last Super Nintendo game that we ever added before we moved on to, you know, 32 and 64-bit consoles. So didn't play a lot of the games that came out during this time. A lot of the greats, a lot of the classics that a lot of people talk about and rave about that they grew up with in their childhood. The Mega Man X games, Legend of Zelda, Star Fox, Super Metroid, Earthbound, the Final Fantasy games, all of those games. Never got around to playing them back then. Like I said, internet wasn't around back then, so we weren't able to look up games on GameSpot or IGN or anything like that. It wasn't like that back then, you know what I mean? We had very limited coverage. We had magazines, gaming magazines, like GamePro, Nintendo Power, but there was this one game, and this is a game that I just added back to my collection finally thanks to Professor Raichu's claim sale. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4: Turtles in Time. Just how many times me and my sister played through this game over and over again. We got through it, we played it on easy mode, we played it through normal mode, we played it on hard mode, we unlocked all the alternate colors with the comic book color versions, which was always our preferred way to play through the game as the Turtles. I know a lot of people hype this game up, and if you weren't around back then and you never got around to playing Turtles in Time, there's a reason why it has such high accolades even to this day. It's because to me personally, it's still the best Ninja Turtle game ever released. Going from the first Ninja Turtle game on the NES, which we didn't care for, we didn't like it, we played it once, we rented it, and then jumping to this one, man, what a difference it made and what an impact this game had. This was our beat 'em up, man. This was my introduction to that genre in particular, and we had such a grand old time playing this one. And when I got it recently, I told my wife, sit down, popped it in the Super Nintendo, we sat in front of the CRT, and I was like, we're gonna get through this game right frickin' now. She was down. Wasn't her cup of tea in particular. She's not a big fan of beat 'em ups, but she still sat through it and got through it with me. We beat it in around 29 minutes, and it really meant a lot to me because, like I said, has so many memories with my sister playing through this game, and it's still, to this day, one of my favorite Super Nintendo games of all time. I'm still experiencing a lot of Super Nintendo games that I missed out on growing up, and it's one of the greatest things about video games, being able to experience games you might have missed out on as a child, but still, better late than ever, I always say, especially with video games. That's it for my childhood memories with the Super Nintendo and my collection. I want to know your childhood collection of games. Was it big? Was it small? What was the one that stood out to you the most? I want to know about it, so let's have a discussion down there in the comment section. So once again, if you like videos like this, hit the subscribe button, like the video, maybe hype it up as well. And yeah, I really do appreciate you all for tuning in once again so I can share some of my video game memories with you here at the CesArcade. Once again, I wish you all a good game and good night. And thanks for watching.